Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Gopinada Radha Gopinada Shri Radhe. Jaya Prabhupada 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 Srila Prabhupada. Nitai Gora Haribo, 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 Gora Haribo. Gaura Premananda.
Jai Nitilila Pravishtom Vishnupad Paramahans Privraj Kacharya Stotra Shada Shri Srimad Bhaya Charanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Nitilila Pravishtom Vishnupad Paramahans Privraj Kacharya Stotra Shada Shri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Nitilila Pravishta Om Vishnupada Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babiji Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnupada Srila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnupada Vaishnava Sarvabhaum Srila Jagannath Das Babiji Maharaj Ki Jai. Shri Gauriya Vaishnav Guru Varga Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Jamuna Mai Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai. Nitai Gaura Premanande. Hari Hari Bol. All glories to Simul devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to Simul devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to Simul devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vishnu. I would like to offer my heartfelt apologies to the Vaishnavas for being late. Unfortunately, I got caught in the rain, so I'm a little bit soaked as well because of that. But I do wish to extend my feelings of remorse for disrespecting your time and disrespecting Srimad Bhagavatam in such a way. So, beginning, we will dive right into it then. Reading from Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 6, Text 38. Kritvorao dakshine savyam pada padmam cha januni Pahum prakoshthek shamalam Asinam tarka mudraya Kritvorao dakshine savyam Pada padmam cha januni Bahum prakoshthek shamalam Asinam tarka mudraya Kritvorao dakshine savyam Pada padmam cha januni Bahum prakoshthek shamalam Asinam tarka mudraya Tvarao dakshine savyam आसीनं तर्कमुद्रया कृत्वरो दक्षिणे सव्यम् पादपद्मं च जानुनि बाहुं प्रकोष्ठे क्षमालम् आसीनं तर्कमुद्रया पादपद्मं च जानुनि बाहुं प्रकोष्ठे क्षमालम् आसीनं तर्कमुद्रया कृत्वरो दक्षिणे सव्यम् पादपद्मं च जानुनि बाहुं प्रकोष्ठे क्षेमालम् आसीनं तर्कमुद्रया कृत्वरो दक्षिणे सव्यम् पादपद्मं च जानुनि बाहुं प्रकोष्ठे क्षमालम् आसीनं तर्कमुद्रया कृत्वा, having placed urao, thigh, dakshine, at the right, savyam, the left, padapadmam, lotus feet, cha, and januni, on his knee, bahum, hand, prakoshthe, in the end of the right hand, akshamalam, rudraksha beads, asinam, sitting, tarka mudraya, with the mudra of argument. Translation. His left leg was placed on his right thigh, and his left hand was placed on his left thigh. In his right hand he held rudraksha beads. This sitting posture is called virasana. He sat in the virasana posture, and his finger was in the mode of argument. Purport. The sitting posture described herein is called virasana, according to the system of Ashtanga Yoga performances. In the performance of yoga, there are 8 divisions, such as yama and niyama: controlling, following the rules and regulations, then practicing the sitting postures, etc. Besides virasana, there are other sitting postures, such as padmasana and siddhasana. Practice of these asanas without elevating oneself to the position of realizing the Supersoul, Vishnu, is not the perfectional stage of yoga. Lord Shiva is called Yogishvara, the master of all yogis, and Krishna is also called Yogeshvara. Yogeshvara indicates that no one can surpass the yoga practice of Lord Shiva, and Yogeshvara indicates that no one can surpass the yogic perfection of Krishna. Another significant word is Tarka Mudra. This indicates that the fingers are opened and the second finger is raised, along with the arm, to impress the audience with some subject matter. This is actually a symbolic representation. The translation again. His left leg was placed on his right thigh, and his left hand was placed on his left thigh. In his right hand he held rudraksha beads. This sitting posture is called virasana. He sat in the virasana posture, and his finger was in the mode of argument. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. So, I didn't say Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudeva, so we'll say that, and then we'll begin with Mangala Charan. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Soyam Rupah Kadamahyam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Deenabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratvashe Namaha Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So, Hare Krishna. As we are discussing, we are continuing along in again this very infamous interaction of Shiva with various personalities in this very esteemed and famous pastime. And we are seeing, as most of the speakers have been discussing the pastime, I won't get into it in too much depth, but rather we'll discuss a little bit about this purport. We can see here the various titles, and Yogeshwar is also sometimes a title for Shiva, even though it is also a title for Krishna. However, we read in Srimad Bhagavatam that occasionally Krishna is also called Yogeshwar. He's called Yogeshwareshwar. Right? This is a title that is also given to Krishna, where he is acknowledged as the Ishvara of Yogeshwar. So, no matter which way we take Krishna, he is having this absolute supreme position of yoga. And the reason why Krishna takes this supreme position, we see many people, they're claiming to be performing these yogic processes, right? But what do we see? They're saying, oh yes, I do yoga. I saw one book recently in a bookstore, and I was going through, and the book was titled Yoga Without the Sanskrit. And I looked at it, and the whole thing was to remove any of the unnecessary baggage of yoga. And this is good. This Krishna consciousness movement is all about removing the unnecessary baggage of yoga. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, he tells one story of one woman who was getting married, right? And when she was getting married, there was this black cat that was running around. And as they were, performing the yajna and everything, swaha, swaha, like this, right? They were thinking this cat is interrupting this whole ritual. The purity of the ritual is not being maintained. It is running around and disturbing everyone. So, what happened is this girl, as she was getting married, one of the Brahmins, he said, if somebody bring some sticks and build a little cage around the black cat. Right? And so they built this cage around the black cat, and the cat was kept in its position, and then the marriage went ahead successfully. So anyways, what happened is there was another young girl who was there during this wedding. And eventually, in a few years, it was her turn to get married. So when she got married, she went and sat down, and then she told one of her relatives, she said, where's the black cat? And they said, what do you mean? And then she said, you need to bring a black cat and cage him up and put him at the side of the wedding. So they took a black cat, and they caged it up, and they put it on the side of the wedding. Right? And why did she do that? And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada says, well, she did that because she saw it at the wedding before. And she thought, well, this is a necessary detail then. It won't be a wedding without the black cat being there. So in this way, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, he explains the state and condition of these yogic practices that we see developing. Many traditions that are unnecessary. Many accumulations that are maybe necessary in one context, but completely unnecessary in the other. And ultimately, people who are following rules and regulations, but are not following the essence of the path, right? They are following the detail without even observing the principle. All of these ideas, they have crept into the practice of yoga. And so, this Krishna consciousness movement, ideally, we are meant to be trying to say, no need to bring the black cat in. No need to do so in a way where it is captured up and put away. Do away with it altogether. We must come to the essence of what yoga is. And we see this. When we see the spread of Krishna consciousness, especially by the direct associates of Mahaprabhu and their disciples, right? We read the pastimes of Narottam Das Thakur, right, and his expansive preaching. We will see people who have come to the essence. How explosively it blew up. Actually, we can think of this, Gauriya Vaishnavism, as a title. Well, in one sense, Gauriya refers to the region of roughly West Bengal, Orissa, that we know today, right? But when I saw something interesting, there was a recent academic book, or when I say recent, it was around 10 years ago. So there was an academic book that was published, and it was calling Gauriya Vaishnavism Chaitanya Vaishnavism. And I thought this was interesting, so I was looking in the introduction. And they said, we have called Gauriya Vaishnavism Chaitanya Vaishnavism because it doesn't make much sense to refer to a movement that is present everywhere as with the Bengali title, right? In fact, you'll see in very old books, Gauriya Vaishnavism was called Bengali Vaishnavism, right? And in one sense, you can say this is accurate. It is born in Bengal and it emerges from there. But on the other hand, it denies how quickly Krishna consciousness is spread, right? The followers of Mahaprabhu, they're in Rajasthan, right? They're in Vrindavan, obviously. Vrindavan is founded by the mercy of Mahaprabhu, right? They are in Bengal, they're also in Manipur, also in Orissa, in all of these areas. So actually, Krishna consciousness, it spread all throughout during that time, well beyond the local communities. And then, of course, by the mercy of His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Gauriya Vaishnavism is a worldwide presence. I still think in some way Gauriya is a nice title. We know this word Gora. It can also mean sugar canes, right? Molasses. Some people say that's why the state was named that, although I've heard different accounts. So, if Gora can refer to sugarcane, then we are still Gauriyas, because our philosophy is very sweet. We believe in the sweetness of Krishna, rasa vaisaha. And so because our philosophy is the most focused on tasting ras, in that sense we are also all Gauriyas, even if we are not Bengalis. Actually, I think there are no Bengalis here. Yes. So none of us are Bengalis, but we can say we are Gauriyas, because we are trying to taste the sweetness of Krishna. At the very least, we are following in the footsteps of acharyas who have very much tasted the sweet rasa, which is much greater than any sugarcane of Krishna. So, in this way, I was thinking that Krishna consciousness, right? What a fantastic tradition that has emerged, well beyond any sort of boundaries. And why is that? Well, actually, because we are, as Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada said, doing away with any of the non-essentials. Kiba Vipro, Kiba Nashi, Shudra Kene Hoy, right? It doesn't matter if one is a sannyasi or a Shudra, Grihastha, or whatever. Krishna Tattva Beti, Shei Guru Hoy, right? If they know Krishna, if they understand the science of Krishna, then they're qualified not to be a Vaishnava, but even qualified to be a Guru of the Vaishnavas. This is very radical. And so in this way, this Krishna consciousness movement, it is doing away with all of the non-essentials. But why do I bring this up? I bring this up because this book, Yoga Without the Sanskrit, when I flicked through it, it's got my attention, right? I thought, what an interesting title. And when you flick through it, it's all about getting rid of the non-essentials. And I found it very funny because they got rid of all the essentials and kept all the details, right? Absolutely nonsense book it was. Complete rascaldom. Why? What happens? Oh, these rules and regulations. We can just be relaxed, right? I heard in one place they were saying, the way we understand no illicit sex here is by saying you don't have any flings. right? As long as you've been on a few dates with the person, then you do whatever you want. It's bogus. Actually, to perform the yoga process of Patanjali, this Ashtanga yoga process, one must be a full-fledged brahmachari. Actually, many people in the yoga studios, they will say, oh, these ISKCON members, these Gauriya Vaishnavas, they're too strict. So strict they are. Actually, we are not strict. We are much more liberal than they are. They just don't follow what their actual teachings are. Does this make sense? In their teachings, especially if you see, forget about Ashtanga Yoga, many of the people there, they're in the Mayavad persuasion of thought. And in the Mayavad persuasion of thought, in order to attain Advaita Gyan, right, in order to obtain that ultimate realization, one must be a sannyasi, born in a Brahmin family, right? This is very strict. What do we say? Follow these regular principles, chant 16 rounds, Hare Krishna, right? So actually it is just that they don't follow their process, and then they don't follow their process, and then they'll accuse us of being strict when we follow our very simple process. Our process is much more liberal than theirs. Much more liberal, much more easy to practice. So, this is what I often say, right? You can accuse us of being strict, but all you are doing is failing to achieve your goal. Well, we are trying at least to achieve ours. So, nothing is got cheaply. And yet books like this, they want to give it very cheaply. And the most offensive thing, and by offensive, I don't mean it in a political sense, I mean it in a sense of this is just absolutely bogus, is there was no mention of Krishna. Yoga is just a form of stretching. People will say this, oh, I do yoga. Yeah, it's just a form of stretching. This is nonsense as well. I heard once from one sannyasi, he said, to call the stretching yoga, to call the asanas the yoga process, is like washing the pots and calling it cooking. These asanas, they are useful, but they are not the yoga process. What is the yoga process? Well, ultimately, what has Srila Prabhupada said? Practice of these asanas without elevating oneself to the position of realizing the Supersoul, Vishnu, is not the perfectional stage of yoga. So, it is through bhakti, through connection with Krishna. Then we begin to taste something of what yoga is actually all about. So in this way, we can understand this is the true essence of yoga, right? All of the other details and questions, they are non-essential. But connection to Krishna is essential. So this book, by not mentioning Krishna, it has rejected the complete essence of yoga. It cannot be called a book of yoga at all. And so, we see this to be the case. Many people, they are rejecting the true essence of spirituality, of bhakti. We read in the Srimad Bhagavatam and in other Shastras that even bhakti itself can be performed incorrectly. And when it is performed incorrectly, then it too is also mundane. We should not think that just these absurd things. My favorite one, I said in a Bhagavatam class a few years ago, so I think it's the expiry date where I can reuse the example. I was once, I was browsing through the internet, and as you know, you get targeted advertisements, right? Because Google is stalking every single thing you do with your life. And so I always get advertisements for some yoga groups and stuff like this, obviously, because of my browsing history, right? And I got this one advertisement, beer yoga. They drink a little bit of beer so they get a little bit buzzed, and then they will do these asanas. Nonsense, right? But we will see explicit nonsense like this. This is easy to reject. Anyone who falls for that is, Hare Krishna, let us pray. They get the mercy of one of our illustrious book distributors soon. But still, these things are obvious. But actually, there are many forms of bhakti that are very mundane. There are many forms of bhakti that are harder to notice. There is one of the very essential texts of the Nectar of Devotion, Shri Shri Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which defines to us our understanding of what bhakti truly is. And if it is what bhakti truly is, it is what yoga is in its height, right? This is what Krishna says at the end of the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. He lists all of the different yogic processes. And what does he say? Madgate nantaratmana, right? That person who is constantly worshipping me with faith. who is Shraddhavan, who is filled with faith, such a person, he is the greatest of yogis. So already we see here very clearly defined by Krishna in the Gita, right? Bhakti, it is the height of yoga. But we should also be attaining the height of bhakti when we are pursuing bhakti yoga. Not that we should do some compromised form. So, what is this definition? Does anyone know? It's a very famous text. Yes, Anyabhilashita shunyam jnana karmadyanavritam anukulyena krishnanu shilanam bhaktir uttama. This text should be completely stamped into our hearts. If we do not have this text constantly, we should be able to say it in our sleep. If we do not know this text, we will not be able to pursue bhakti. Because this text is giving us what bhakti is. And what is it? It is completely driven by no other motivation than to please Krishna. Jnana karma dhyanavritam. Right? It is devoid of any desire for jnana or karma. Right? Jnana and karma must happen in the sense that we must do activities and we must have some knowledge. But any of these, which are there to cultivate karma yoga or jnana yoga, they are not accepted. Any of these which are there to pursue jnana for the sake of jnana, knowledge for the sake of knowledge, they are rejected. Only pure devotion to Krishna, only this is acceptable. Now, we will hear various varieties of how this is violated. We will hear sometimes of bhakti in the mode of ignorance, bhakti in the mode of passion. But these ones, they are easy to identify. Somebody is pursuing bhakti for some tamasic goal. Where it becomes difficult is when we see bhakti in the mode of goodness. Because bhakti in the mode of goodness is still mundane. Sattvic bhakti is still mundane and is something we should transcend. Sattvika bhakti is something that will not give us our goal. There is sagun bhakti and there is nirgun bhakti. Sagun bhakti means with material qualities, and nirgun bhakti means without material qualities. We are trying to pursue nirgun bhakti, but many times we will fall into the trap of practicing sagun bhakti, not because of the mode of ignorance or the mode of passion. At least no one here will be, right? We have all received the mercy of Srila Prabhupada enough to be aware to avoid these things. But sattvic bhakti, this can sometimes creep in. The mode of goodness is still, sattva gun, is still a chain to this material world, even if it is the nicest chain. Even if it is the most peaceful chain. Even if it is the chain that lets us live the most comfortably. Even if it is the chain that we should cultivate. We should all be cultivating living in sattva gun. But we should be cultivating sattva gun in a way that we hope to transcend it as well. We should not become situated in sattva gun. So, there are many levels given of the sattvika bhakta. And this sattvika bhakta, this sattvic bhakta, is fully mundane, we can say. Transcendental in whichever way they connect to Krishna. But mundane in their conceptualization and connection to Krishna. So, the beginning level, sattvic bhakta, they are known as the adhama sattvika bhakt. And these are people who come to the bhakti yoga path. Why? Because they want to destroy their sins. They want to destroy their sinful reactions. And they have heard the glories of this holy name. Maybe one day they were walking through Vrindavan or Mayapur, or maybe they were walking in any place and they heard some Bhagavat Saptaha. And in this Bhagavat Saptaha, they heard the pastime of a Jamil. And they heard, wow, Narayana. And the sinful man completely delivered. I have committed many sins. Maybe I should take up to bhakti and purify myself of all of these sins. Sometimes you'll hear this. I ask some people, sometimes. I'm just curious, right? And sometimes you have to do it when you're cultivating people. You have to be a little bit picky, unfortunately, right? Sometimes I'll ask them, why are you pursuing this bhakti yoga path? And they'll say, I want to get rid of all of my bad reactions, right? I want to get rid of all of my bad karma. I want to do karma-free living. And of course, we do this for preaching. But this is still actually mundane bhakti. This is not nirgun bhakti. This is still sagun bhakti. This is bhakti qualified by the mode of goodness. Because it is a good goal, isn't it? To try to be karma free. To be transcending one's bad karma, this is a sattvic goal, isn't it? This is a religious tendency. This is not something irreligious. This is not something passionate, but is mundane. It is material. And so this is one form of sattvic bhakti. Don't worry, after this I will say a pastime. Then we have the madhyama sattvic bhakta. And the madhyama sattvic bhakta, he is engaging in this bhakti in order to please the Lord. Now we hear that and we think, Prabhu, you are contradicting yourself. First you say, Anyabhilashita shunyam jnana karmadhyanavritam anukulyena krishna anushilanam bhaktiruttama. You're saying that the pure desire to please the Lord, this is transcendental, and now you are saying that mundane bhakti, this nirgun bhakti, this sagun bhakti, it also includes pleasing the Lord. But we have to understand, this madhyama sattvic bhakta, they are trying to please the Lord for some benefit. So, maybe their parents told them, you pray to Krishna, and if you pray to Krishna, you will get good things in your life. You will live a nice spiritual life. This is good for society. It is a good thing to please Krishna. You will live a happy and content life. This is also sattvika bhakti. This is also sagun. This is conditioned by the mode of goodness. Why? Because the desire is good. Good in the mundane sense, right? It is sattvic, right? We wish to live a good life in accordance with religious principles. And so we wish to please the Lord in order to exist well in this world, right? This is the madhyama sattvic bhakt. But then lastly, we have the uttama sattvic bhakt. And who are they? They are the ones, they are serving in some sort of extension of this, right? They've so much delved into that mood that eventually they've fully absorbed themselves in it, and they've attained some sort of perfection, right? So they're in a in-between position, right? Anyways, so ultimately, sattvika bhakti. What is sattvic bhakti? Sattvic bhakti is when one confuses one's social responsibilities, one's varnashram, with bhakti. Varnashram is important, and varnashram is a good way to practice bhakti, right? My social duty, my position in society. But when one thinks it is their bhakti, then it is not correct, right? I once heard one person say, women don't need to chant their rounds, they just need to serve their husband. And that is their bhakti. This is bogus, because this is confusing varnashram with bhakti. No social duty you can do, regardless of one's view of social duty, will give one bhakti. This is not correct. Only through bhakti will we get bhakti. So, in this sense, there is one pastime which embodies this principle. So, at one point in Krishna's pastimes, he was around 6 to 7 years of age. In Dwapar Yug, it's said that one becomes a teenager at around 6 years, 8 months. This is the description some of our acharyas give. So Krishna, he is just roughly entered, or he's on the verge of entering into this teenage age. And so Krishna, he is going around through the forests of Vraj. And as he's going through this forest, what happens? Well, he's going with his friends, and his friends suddenly say something. They say, Rama, Rama, Krishna. There is a great demon here. And Krishna says, what demon? They say, oh, the most terrible demon of them all. Krishna says, what is this demon's name? They say, we are very hungry. The demon of hunger has entered into our stomachs. It is Ekadashi. We will all be attacked by that demon today. So, they said this demon has entered into our stomachs. Now, there is something interesting. They first say Rama, then they say Krishna. This is mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam. The reason why is because Krishna, he is pleased because Balaram is his older brother, right? So Krishna, he is very pleased that his brother should get the respect first. He likes that this respect is followed. And so in this way, it is said that the Gopas, the cowherd boys, they first call out to Balaram, and then they call out to Krishna. In this way they call out. So Krishna, he is very happy to have heard this, right? Now, we might have a few questions. Because actually, we will hear a few things, right? In the Srimad Bhagavatam, about the nature of the devotee. Does it make sense that the devotees will become very, very hungry? Very, very thirsty? Actually, in first canto we hear Parikshit Maharaj, very famously with Shringi, right? He is getting thirsty. But what do we read? We read that actually pure devotees, they don't become victim to thirst and hunger, right? In this way. They're very transcendental, right? And actually we hear that Parikshit Maharaj, he became victim to his thirst. Why? He became victim to his thirst because the pastimes of the Lord were wanting to happen. Krishna wished, the Leela Shakti wished, Yogamaya wished that the Bhagavatam will be manifested. And so Parikshit was overcome with thirst in this way. So we can understand that these cowherd boys, it cannot be because they were actually hungry that they felt this hunger. Actually, what had happened is that morning, by the arrangement of Yogamaya, the mothers, they had forgot to pack the lunch for all the cowherd boys, so they were very hungry. And Krishna as well, he took them through the part of the forests which didn't have any fruits growing from the trees, so they were unable to have fruits as well. But all the cowherd boys, no lunch packed, no fruits to pick from the trees. What happened? They were thinking, Krishna must be so hungry. Our dear Krishna, he must be so very hungry. But then they thought, if we tell Krishna, oh, you are hungry, he will say, no, let's keep on playing. So they were thinking, how can we get around this? So what happens is, they think, oh, but if we tell Krishna that we are hungry, then Krishna, he will do anything to solve this problem. Krishna, he will do anything to satisfy this desire. Again, Krishna is Bhakta Vatsala, right? He is always trying to serve his devotees. So they thought, we will do it in this way. So in this way, they told Krishna. They said, oh, we are very hungry. They told Krishna, and they told Balaram. And so, after saying this, what happened? Krishna, he replied, and he said, you should go to this sacrificial arena, right? And there are a group of Brahmins there. And they are very learned in Vedic injunctions. And right now they are performing a very, very nice yajna, the Angirasa sacrifice, in order to attain the heavenly planets, right? So he sends them there. Now, what's interesting is we actually hear some of our acharyas, they say these Brahmins, they were in the same location that the Indra Yajna is performed for Govardhan pastime. We know the Indra Yajna is normally performed. Of course, now we celebrate as Govardhan Puja, right? But in this is the same village, the same set of Brahmins who actually normally would have performed the Indra Yajna. Because they are aware you can find people who will authentically perform this Devata mood of worship in the Mathura region. These are the nominal Sattvika Bhakts, right? Who are there in the area. Does this make sense? So in this way, this group is there. I'm now thinking I should have enough time, hopefully, to get through the whole pastime. So in this way, this whole group is there. They're performing yajnas. So what happens is, Krishna, he tells them, you go and you tell them that the Supreme Personality, the Supreme Lord Balaram, he is very hungry. Why does Krishna say this? He says this because Krishna, he is what? What is his varna? What is the varna of Krishna? No, that is his color. I mean, varna is in varnashram. He's a Vaishya, right? Vrajanath Krishna is a Vaishya. Dwarkanath Krishna is a Kshatriya. But Vrajanath Krishna, he is a Vaishya. So he's thinking, if we go to the Brahmanas, I'm a simple Vaishya, what charity will I get? Right? What charity will I get as a Vaishya? Right? He said, I will go and then they will think they will have to give to everyone because there's no special respect for me as a Vaishya. But Balaram, the son of the great Rohini. He is a Kshatriya. So if we say Balaram's name, then they will give some nice charity, because they're giving charity to the Kshatriyas. Why? Not because of some bodily consciousness, but because the Kshatriyas, they're doing such a great social duty, right? Such a great social duty. They are taking care of society, and not like all of our bogus politicians today, right? They were actually taking care of society then, right? And they're doing so much so many jobs in order to maintain social cohesion and all of these things. So some charity is also given, some respect, some gift is given to the Kshatriya. We can see in the remnants, after the Kshatriya system is abused in later history, we can still see some remnants of this, right? Kings, whenever they would visit, people would voluntarily, they would give gold and gifts in charity. Of course, at that point in medieval times, the kings were, they were not so good, by and large. Some good ones were still there, right? So we see this principle is still there. So because of this, Balaram, he is given emphasis here. Krishna. Who will give Krishna something? He's just some Vaishya rascal, right? But Balaram, great son of Rohini. So he is a Kshatriya. So Krishna, he says, you mention the name of Balaram. You go and you do this. So in this way, all of the boys, they went. And they fell before the Brahmanas. And they gave their full Dandavat pranams. And what did they say? They said, Hey Bhumi Deva. Hey Bhumi Deva. Hey gods of the earth. Please, we see you are, we would like you. Please, we've been sent by Balaram. Please acknowledge our arrival, right? Now why Bhumi Deva? Bhumi Deva, not because Brahmanas are Devatas, right? But because by the sacrifice of the Brahmins, by the yagyas of the Brahmins, by the karmic activities of the Brahmins, the Devatas have some connection to the earth. So they are the touch point of the Devas on earth. And also because, that is one way to understand. Another way is because the Vedas themselves, they are apurusheya. They are coming from Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And coming from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, how do the Vedas enter into the earth? Through the Brahmana's recitation. So also in this way, in one sense we can understand Bhumi Deva to mean that they are the connection between the Devatas, the demigods, and earth. We can also understand it as they are the gods on earth because the Vedas are appearing through them, and so they are the connection of divinity onto earth. Does this make sense? So in this way, the Brahmanas, they are referred to this. Actually, Prabhupada writes in Nectar of Devotion that after Buddha Dev stopped a lot of the yagyas, a lot of the Vedic rituals being abused, after that, the demigods stopped visiting so regularly. That's why before they used to visit all the time, and now no one has met Indra, right? If somebody says they've met Indra, we sort of think, okay, nice to meet you. Keep on going with your day, right? Because these sacrifices are not happening anymore. So, hey Bhumi Deva, come acknowledge us. So in this way, they say, Lord Rama, Lord Achyuta, they're taking care of cows, right? They're tending, and they're very hungry. Please give them some remnants of the sacrifice. Give them some prasad. It's very funny. What is one title of Krishna? Yajna? Yajna what? Does anyone know? What is this title of Krishna? Yajna Bhuk. He is the enjoyer of all yagyas. So here we have the enjoyer of all yagyas. And yet, these yagya Brahmins, they are very hesitant. They become very hesitant to give any of their items to that person who is tasting their very yagya. They become very, we don't know if we want to give. Actually, it's described, Brahma, he prays in the 14th chapter of the 10th canto. What does he pray? He says, "Oh Krishna, even though you are tasting all the yagyas of the world, none of them are as satisfying for you as drinking the milk of these cows of Raj." So we should see here. Yajna Bhuk, yes, it means all of these yagyas, but ultimately it means the offering of pure bhakti. This is the greatest yajna. Other yagyas, they are satisfying to the Lord in one sense. Fully mundane yagyas, they are mainly satisfying to Vishnu, because Vishnu is happy that social cohesion is happening. But ultimately, It is pure bhakti. The pure bhakti of the Vrijvasis. This is what is ultimately the most satisfying to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, in this way, they go and they speak. And there's a back and forth. As I'm realizing I'm running out of time, I won't go into the back and forth, right? But there is a back and forth between them as they keep on sort of, and by back and forth I mean they basically get fully ignored. The cowherd boys, they get fully ignored. But they still keep making points. They make some points. They appeal to the Shastras. And they say, according to Vedic principles, actually it is bona fide for you to give us some food. Because they are thinking, the Brahmins might say it is improper in this point for us to give rice. And then they explain how there are certain Vedic principles which actually allow them to give the rice, right? Which actually allow them. What is this showing? It is showing two things. One, it is showing that the devotee actually has full knowledge of all Vedic conclusions. These cowherd boys, simple, tiny, bacha, right? What age are we talking, right? 6 to 7 years, they're around in that age range, right? And there they are, and they're quoting strict rules of Vedic sacrifice in order to show that it is bona fide. This is the first thing we see. Through bhakti, the devotees are the most knowledgeable, not the devotees are unknowledgeable. Through the execution of Krishna consciousness, the devotee becomes the most knowledgeable person. But what do we also see? When do we see the Gopas amongst themselves saying, well, according to this text of the Rig Veda, we should actually be doing this, and this. Again, we are seeing everything that is not directly serving Krishna, it is irrelevant to us. So even though they have full knowledge of the Vedic rituals, what do they discuss when they hang out with each other? They say, oh, Krishna is very weak. I can beat him in an arm wrestle. That is what they discuss amongst themselves. So we see both things. One is that through the execution of bhakti, all knowledge will arrive. But secondly, all knowledge that is unrelated to Krishna, we should only use when we are serving Krishna. So sometimes devotees, they get very involved into psychology, or technical philosophy, or into Sanskrit study, or into all of these things. And these things are good, but they are useless by themselves. They are only good if we use them like the cowherd boys are doing. Krishna is hungry, let me serve Krishna. You get what I mean? Let me serve Krishna with this knowledge, then that knowledge will come out. Otherwise we are humble, we are simple. At least that is our aspiration. Now there is another Siddhanta that is coming here. Even though these Brahmanas, they did not take to the position of giving this food to these cowherd boys, still, what do we see? Krishna, he is giving them an opportunity for service. He is giving them an opportunity for seva. How does seva enter into our lives? People, they will say, oh, I have a relationship with Krishna. Why do I need to take a Shiksha Guru? Why do I need to engage in Krishna? Why do I need to engage in doing all of these things? I come here, I chant my rounds. This is not what Bhagavatam is showing us. Bhagavatam is showing us that service to Krishna is given when Krishna sends the Vaishnavas, and the Vaishnavas give us service to Krishna. Right? These Brahmins, they are not directly being given by Krishna. They are given by the Vaishnavas. So we should not think, oh, simply I will directly relate to Krishna. Simply I will go, Krishna will inspire me in my heart to do something. Or we will think, I come to the temple. Sometimes people will say this, I come to the temple, I don't associate with the devotees. I just go, I see Krishna, I don't want to get too involved in all of it. Then you have no connection to Krishna actually. This is a Siddhanta here. Krishna, he creates connection with us through the devotees. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, he was once asked, have you ever seen Krishna? Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada said, I'm not looking for Krishna, so I have not seen him. I'm looking for Krishna Seva, service to Krishna. And there is so much of that. You get the point. So in this way, service to Krishna, this is what we are hankering for. And this we are given through the facility of the Vaishnavas. So if we want to create a relationship with Krishna, we have to hope that Krishna sends in our life the Vaishnavas, who will then engage us in some service. This is how we become connected to Krishna. This is how we serve Krishna, not directly. That is why when we offer bhoga, what do? First we present it to our Guru. Then we present it to Srila Prabhupada through the parampara. Because we say, I am not serving Krishna. I am simply assisting in your service of Krishna. You have given me the service. Actually, when we offer prasad, when we offer bhoga, we are not meditating in the mood that, I want to serve bhoga. Actually, our mood should be, our Gurudev, he is serving bhoga, she is serving bhoga. Right? And because they are serving bhoga, I am assisting in this seva. I am trying my best to assist them. They have given me some service. Not that I'm doing direct service to Krishna, that Krishna is so excited to eat what I have to cook. No, I am doing something in order to assist their service to Krishna. Seva comes through the Vaishnav. And seva is what we want. Direct relationship to Krishna is impossible. So we see this Siddhanta as well when these boys, they come. So then what happens is they completely ignore them. They are very, very, they were very, very dismissive of this desire. They completely rejected it. They set it aside. So in this way then the cowherd boys, again I'm running out of time, so they run back to Krishna and they tell Krishna. And what does Krishna do? Does anyone remember what Krishna does? He smiles. He smiles and he laughs. There are different descriptions given why Krishna, he smiles. One is that he laughs because he's laughing at what is the complete misconception of these people. Yajna Bhuk has come and requested. The taster of all of the Vedic sacrifices has come and asked to taste the sacrifice, and they haven't even taken heed. This is the first thing. But the other thing is he's smiling. Don't be hurt or don't be upset. He's trying to cool down his friends. So in this way, Krishna, he smiles upon hearing this. He says, don't worry about it. He says, actually, there are some wives of these Brahmins. And these wives, they will be cooking already. And they are very, very sweet. You go to them. You go to them and you ask them. Now, Jiva Goswami and Sanatan Goswami, in their commentaries on the Srimad Bhagavatam, they both say that Krishna says, don't mention that I am hungry. Because actually these wives are already such pakka devotees that just by hearing my name, they will want to serve me. Don't mention that I'm hungry. Just mention that I am here, and they will instantly go. So, then they go. And they go again to this outer area. This outer area, it's in Mathura, it's on the verge of the Vraj forest region, right? So in this area, we can say it's roughly the area where Garga Acharya is from. So there's some Aishvarya there. There's still some opulence in this region. So what happens is they go to this house where all of the wives are. They're all there, they're present. And what do? They say, hey, Krishna, he is here. He has arrived. He is in this place. And then what do they say? This is interesting. Bhagavatam describes. They say, he is hungry. Oh, now this is interesting. I just said, our acharyas said that Krishna told them not to mention he is hungry. And yet what do they say? They say he is hungry. He is tending the cows. And he is very hungry. Now why is this said? Sanatan Goswami and Jiva Goswami, they both give different explanations. Sanatan Goswami, he says the reason why they said this is because the moment they heard Krishna is here, they wanted to run out of their house. And then so the cowherd boys, they thought, if we don't mention that he is hungry, they won't bring any food. And then no feeding will happen. So they say he's been taking care of the cows, he is hungry. And then they thought, okay, we should stay and cook something to prepare to give it to Krishna. That's what Sanatan Goswami says. Jiva Goswami, he says that actually what happens is when they said Krishna, even before that sentence could be finished, right? And definitely by the time it is finished, Krishna is what? Krishna is here. They became so ecstatic, they all passed out. They all passed out. They fell into an ecstatic trance. Krishna is here. They became so excited, they became unconscious. And so the cowherd boys, they thought, we need to wake these people up. So he thought, how can we wake them up? Well, we'll tell them there is some service, there's something. So they said, Krishna is here. And then they become ecstatic. And the cowherd boys, they think, what do we do now? Then they go up and they say, he's taking care of the cows. And then like this, the Brahminical wives, they slowly start waking up. Their eyes are completely covered in tears. And then they say, oh. And then they say, and he is very hungry. And then they become fully awake and they think, we should serve him. And then they go and they begin cooking some preparations. So in this way we see Again, a very interesting Siddhanta. What is this Siddhanta? They violated the instruction of Krishna. Why? In order to follow the essence of the instruction of Krishna. This is again the point I was making at the very beginning. To follow the essence of the yogic path is infinitely more important than following the details. Right? Krishna has sent them in order to attain the food to eat. And so knowing that they will need to break this detail in order to achieve that essence, they did it. Our Srila Prabhupada would do this so many times. My favorite example, I say it too often, is once he was giving Bhagavad Katha, and what happened? The microphone was getting all wonky and all. It was falling. He took the Brahminical thread of his disciple and used it to tie the microphone. Right? He took it off, tied it up. Break the detail in order to follow the essence. What is the use of a Yagyopavita, the Upavit? Right? What is the use of this if you cannot hear Hari Katha? Right? So here we see this principle. They broke Krishna's instruction, but they did it in order to serve Krishna's instruction. Now, we should not take this on our head and think this is something we are free to do. We can only do this if we understand the heart of the instruction we've been given. And that requires deep sadhana. Deep sadhana. Can we truly say, I have understood the heart of my Guru Maharaj's Vani? Maybe we can. I won't say it for anyone. I won't say it against anyone, right? But I know I can't. I can't discriminate what is the heart and what is the detail. So we should not take so freely such liberty. But such liberty does exist. And we should understand this is the essence of Krishna consciousness. So in this way, they've come. And these Brahminical wives, they've been woken up. Hey, Krishna. He is serving the cows. And he is hungry. And so they begin to prepare all of these items. Right? So now, they prepare these items. And what happens? There's a very, very famous text. Right? Because they were very, very eager to rush towards Krishna. It is described that filling all of their vessels with food, they went towards Krishna in the same way that rivers go towards the sea. What does this mean? This means they didn't have some idea. We should worship Krishna. It is good to worship Krishna. They didn't have some idea. My Guru Maharaj gave me 16 rounds to chant. I've chanted 8 so far. I need to chant 8 more. Not like this. Instantly, like a river flows to the sea, naturally their minds were drawn towards Krishna. And so in this way, they were instantly just running towards him. And what do they see? Shyamam hiranya paridhim vanamalya barha dhatu pravala nataveshamunu anuvratangse vinyasta hastamitarena dhunanam abjam karnotpalala kapola mukhabjahasam. His complexion was dark blue and his garment golden. Wearing a peacock feather, colored minerals, sprigs of flower buds, and a garland of forest flowers and leaves, he was dressed just like a dramatic dancer. He rested one hand upon the shoulder of a friend, and with the other twirled a lotus. Lilies graced his ears, his hair hung down over his cheeks, and his lotus-like face was smiling. It's one of the sweetest descriptions we'll find of Krishna in the 10th canto of Bhagavatam, actually. We'll find a few texts where his form is described, but this is one of the most relished ones, right? And so in this way, this is what they see. And they're so drawn towards him. And what do? They tell him, we wish to become like your wives. We wish to become your lovers. That is what they say. They go with this desire and they say, we wish this to be the case. But does anyone know, what does Krishna say in return? In the Vraj pastimes, normally what does Krishna do? Ye yatamam prapadyante tan sathaiva bhajamyaham. Right? He reciprocates accordingly. When the cowherd boys come up to him, and they say, we are your friend, we will wrestle you. Krishna, he wrestles them and he loses. Right? He reciprocates their mood in full intimacy. But these Brahminical wives, what does he do? Does he say, okay, yes, I will? No, he doesn't. Krishna, he says, it is very good that you have this desire. We should all desire to attain association with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He speaks with almost Aishvarya Gyan, right? He speaks the Siddhanta to them. He doesn't engage in any rasa with them. Full Siddhanta he speaks. Now, there are two questions that can be asked. I did this on Sunday. Unfortunately, I'll go a few minutes over time again today. I'm sorry I'll wrap up in a few minutes. There are two important questions that come up from this. One, why did Krishna respond in this way? And two, where did this desire arise in their hearts? So the first question, why did Krishna respond in this way? Actually, it is very clear. In many ways, these Brahminical wives, these Brahmanis, they are more than qualified to become in any sort of relationship with Krishna. Very beautiful, very cultured. All of these things are there. But the Leela Shakti came in, Yoga Maya came in and filled Krishna's mind with an obstruction. And what was that obstruction? This is rasa bhas. Krishna would not go with the wives of a Brahmana. Because they are Brahmanis, he could not enjoy Madhurya Ras with them. And why is that? Because, what do we hear? There are many mothers. The cow is a mother, right? Earth is a mother. The person who gave birth to us is mother. And the wife of the Brahmana, the Brahmani, is also the mother. So for this reason, Krishna, Yoga Maya came, and Krishna said, no, this will be rasa bhas. This will be very wrong. The wives of the Brahmanas, they're to be seen like this. That's why actually we'll see. It's very glorious. What we'll see in ISKCON, we have many Diksha Gurus who are Grihastas, right? And their disciples have the very fortunate position not only of worshipping their Diksha Guru, but also of their Diksha Guru's wife, who is also Guru Mata, right? They have this very, very blessed opportunity. So in this way, understanding that the wives of the Brahmanas are mothers, Krishna, he says no. What do we see here? There's something very deep in this. We can have the desire for some sort of relationship with the Lord. We can think we have the desire. They had the desire. Many of us don't. Most of us don't. I can confidently say that. But if they do not have the right body, the right deha, this desire will not be reciprocated. So sometimes you will see people there in very sahajiya mood. They will say, oh, gopi bhav, and they will wear nail polish, and they will dress themselves in a sari. I'm talking about people in a male body. There's no issue wearing a sari if you're in a woman's body, right? But they will dress like this, gopi bhav, right this. This is not accepted. Even in the form of a woman, even in the form of a Mathura Vasi woman, Krishna rejected because their deha was not the right one to taste his mood. And yet what do the sahajiyas think? With my body of pus and stool, and all of these things, with this body of mine, blood, right, and fat and all of these things, oh, Krishna will be so pleased. He will reciprocate already in this body in this way with me. It's nonsense. And we already see in Bhagavatam this principle is being expressed. This is not something that Gauriya Vaishnavas are strict, or that we are some party poopers. No, this is right here in Srimad Bhagavatam. If you do not have the deha, if you have not taken not only transcendental birth, but the right transcendental birth, you will not be able to reciprocate such moods with Krishna. So we should not rush into higher pastimes. We should not rush into these things. We do not have the deha for them. Only when one has the correct body for them, then one can enter into these things. And such body is only given by the grace of Guru. So that's the first point. The second point, and I will wrap up soon, I promise. The second point is, where did this desire come from? Where did they have this desire? Actually, they are on this verge of the forest, right? So what would happen? Is sometimes the gopis, and by this I mean all age gopis, right? The gopis of Vrindavan, they would go and they would sell items. They would sell betel nuts. They would sell garlands like this, and they would go around to local areas and they would sell them. And so what would happen? While the brahmanas, they were performing their very proper Vedic rituals, these brahmanis, they would go and they would speak with them. And the brahmanas, they would say, oh, they are just engaged in some chit-chat, some gossip, some women's things. They would think like this, right? But what was actually happening? While the Brahmanas were there, absorbed in karma kanda, absorbed in their desire to become demigods, these women were much more elevated, right? Why? What were they hearing from all the Vrijvasi gopis? They were hearing Vraj Katha. They were hearing, Krishna, he is doing this, and Krishna, he is doing that. And by constantly hearing all of these pastimes of Krishna, some desire emerged in their heart. Because that is the second question. Where did this desire come from? And how do we know this? Well, we know this because the Brahmanas, at one point they realize their error. They realize their mistake, and they say very famously, Dig Janma, to hell with my Brahminical birth. To hell with my Upanayanam Sanskar. To hell with my Vedic rituals. To hell with all of my austerities. And they say that very heavy. These Brahmanas, they say, to hell with all of it, because I did not observe service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But then they say, we could not see it, but they could. What is the distinguishing principle there? Because while they were busy, all of the Brahmini wives, they were hearing Vraj Katha. They were hearing Krishna Katha. They were hearing Hari Katha. And by hearing this Katha, then they were able to attain some desire. So in this way, how does one attain desire? How does one attain knowledge? They attain knowledge by hearing. By the mercy of the Vaishnavas. Only in this way. Only in this way can one enter into having any desire for Krishna. Again, we don't engage with Krishna directly. We don't just sit down with Bhagavatam. We take shelter of a guru, and the guru slowly gives us what Hari Katha we need to hear, bit by bit, bit by bit. And by hearing this, then we can enter into whatever, and then a sincere desire will emerge. Only by hearing will we attain Krishna consciousness. Only by hearing. And in this way they heard. Anyways, I've gone too much over time. The pastime goes on for a while, but I do want to say why I've brought it up. So I brought up this pastime because we see these Brahmanas, they're very pakka. They are doing all the right things. In a sense, you could say they're even doing bhakti, right? But they are in the mode of goodness only. They're only sattvic, right? At the most, they are only sattvic. But their wives are transcendental. Their wives are on this platform from Ya Bhilashita Shunyam Jnana Karmadya Navritam Anukulyena Krishnanu Shilanam Bhaktiruttama. Right? Their wives are on this platform, and so their wives are demonstrating what does it mean to ignore all of the other details and to follow the essence. They are the greatest yogis, not their husbands who are engaged in the most pakka Brahminical rituals. This is the thing. People will look like the Brahmanas looked at their wives and thought, oh, they're just gossiping or something, right? That is how the Brahmanas looked, and that is how people who are concerned with all the details, all the secondary things, they will look at devotees, and they'll say, this is not pakka, this is not proper, Smarta Shastra says this, Smarta Shastra says that. They are like the husbands. But we should aspire to be like the Brahmanis, who've gone for the essence. And what is the essence? To hear Bhagavatam from the devotee. Actually, if any of us have had this experience and of really sitting down and hearing in person Shabda Brahman, hearing in person Hari Katha spoken by a pure devotee, by a very pure devotee, if you sit down and you hear this Bhagavatam, and maybe some of us have, it is the most powerful thing. You might understand something, you might understand nothing, but it is transformative just to hear Bhagavatam. So in this way, we are following in their footsteps. We are thinking of the Lord. We are chanting about the Lord. We are hungering to serve the Vaishnavas who are giving us service to the Lord. And we are always engaged in hearing and speaking about the Lord. This is when we have the essence of yoga. And this is what is meant in this purport. This is how we come to the essence of the yogic process, not through an asana or not through anything else, simply by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. So once this prasad is taken, all the cowherd boys, they eat it. And they eat all the way up to here. They can't eat any more. But they are not satisfied. They are only satisfied because they are looking at Krishna. And Krishna, he's not eating because he is satisfied. Krishna is satisfied because all of his friends have eaten. All of his devotees have eaten, so Krishna is satisfied. But they are not satisfied because Krishna has not eaten. And so Krishna, even though he is full with what? Full with his love for the devotees. He takes one tiny morsel, one tiny handful, and he eats it. And with that one tiny morsel that he eats, finally the feast is complete, and all the cowherd boys are satisfied. This is the conclusion of the pastime. Again, I wish we had more time, but what to do? Bhagavatam is too long. Okay, we'll wrap up there. Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Jananishta